Dealing with Difficult Delegates, Part 1. In this video, I'm going to talk about dealing with apathetic delegates, talkative delegates, stubborn delegates, and then rude delegates. Okay, you're going to run into all kinds of delegates. A lot of them are going to have many of these different characteristics, and so what I want to do is try and give you some strategies in terms of dealing with them. The other thing that you should know, especially for the newer members of the team, is that when we do simulations, one of the things that we do is we have the veterans play the part of these kinds of delegates. So if you see a delegate sitting off by the side and acting apathetically, for example, that's probably, and it may be that it's a veteran delegate and they're sitting over somewhere and they're looking like they're busy doing something. The key during the simulation is to walk over and try and utilize these strategies. We want to see how well you notice what's going on. So in the simulations, the veterans are going to be playing the part of these different kinds of delegates. You won't always know which one or in which simulation, but I want you to be thinking about these strategies. So let's start off with the apathetic delegates. These are really, in many ways, the most puzzling delegates of all. They don't seem to care about the conference. I mean, you kind of wonder why it is that they're even there. They don't understand the most basic rules of procedure, and all of which might make you wonder, can make working with them really difficult. It can be a pain in the ass. But here's the thing. You should try and get them involved anyways. Now, you don't want to make it your life's work, and you don't want to spend a ton of time going ahead and dealing with it, but you do want to go ahead whenever possible and see if you can go ahead and get them involved. Because if you can empower them by giving them a task, if you can go ahead and do something to get them involved, they may switch from being apathetic to going ahead and being involved. So for example, suppose you've got a delegate who's kind of like on the outside, doesn't seem particularly interested. They're not sitting off in the corner, but they're really not doing anything. They're not participating. Some things you can do is give them a task. Give them something to do. You know, can you say, hey, Brazil, let's say your apathetic delegate is Brazil. Brazil, can you go over and talk to South Africa and let them know that we're working on education, the same kind of education policies that they were talking about earlier, right? Give them something to do. See if there's some way to get them involved. Now, if their apathy is based, if they're just truly apathetic and they're really uncooperative and rude, you just go ahead and in a very diplomatic way, you just excuse yourself and you find other people to work with. But sometimes when people are being apathetic, it's really not apathy. It's really based on fear. It's based on feeling not worthy. It's based on them thinking that it's scary to go ahead and participate. The same kind of fear that you're going to feel when you're in your first conference. If you can go ahead and draw these people out, if you can get them involved, they're going to wind up being one of the greatest allies. Because when you get them involved and you say, hey delegate, hey Brazil, can you go ahead and do this for me? Right? Can you go talk to South Africa? Especially if they're successful in that effort, whatever you have them do, they're going to be so loyal to you. They're going to be so grateful to you, and you can actually draw them in. It's not your job to parent other delegates, but it is your job to learn how to be a leader. And when you can go ahead and you can pull people into the process, when you can get people engaged, that's part of being a leader. And so, again, don't make it your life's work, but when you see people on the fringes, try and draw them in. Slightly more difficult and challenging thing is when you have extremely talkative delegates. You will find at conferences that there are some delegates that really just seem to love to hear the sound of their voice. They just talk and talk and talk. And when you're trying to get work done or you want to let others speak, it's definitely a good idea to get them to shut up, right? When you're trying to get different input on a program that you're developing, you're going ahead and you're developing, again, I keep going back to the same idea. Let's say you're dealing with empowering women, and so you're talking about educational programs, and you want to get input from as many people as possible, and you've got somebody who's just like going on and on and on and on. You want them to shut up, But the thing is, how do you do it diplomatically? So ideally, the thing is you want them to shut up without them feeling as if you told them to shut up. And there's a variety of ways of getting this done. And once again, and you're going to hear me stress this over and over again in these videos, the skills that we're talking about here are skills that you can go ahead and you can take anywhere you go. Whether you're going to move on in academia or whether you're going to go into the private sector and be managing people, either way, these are skills to learn. If the person is being yacky and talking and everything, one of the things you can do is you can wait until there's a break in the comments. Wait until they stop talking. And as soon as they stop talking, immediately step in and turn to another delegate and ask them to comment on what's been said thus far. So somebody's yakking away and they stop and you turn and you go, Bolivia, what do you think about that? Do you have any thoughts on this? Right? And pull them into the conversation. And then pay attention, listen really well, let them know you're listening really well. And as soon as they're done, then turn to somebody else. Madagascar, what do you think? Right? Everybody in the group is going to be glad that you wrestled control from the talkative person. Right? They're all going to be really happy that they're no longer, because nobody likes, somebody just talking all the time. So they're going to be really glad that you wrest control of the group from the person. And then if you're soliciting their opinions, it's not going to look like you're trying to take the position of the talkative person. It's not going to look like you're trying to insert yourself. You've gone ahead and opened up the group and created a place where more people can participate. What this approach does is it enables you to wrest control of the conversation from the talkative person by including other people, by getting more voices in. And because ultimately your goal is to go ahead and increase the committee be productive and move in a forward direction, you're getting a lot of things accomplished at the same time. Now, say you go ahead and you start to do that and they continue to be talkative. What you can do then is wait until you get to an appropriate moment and then say to them, hey, look, you know what, I really appreciate your insights, but that you really want to get the contribution from everybody in the group, right? And it's a little more direct and a little bit more uncomfortable, right? Having to say to somebody, you know what, I really appreciate your input, but I really want to get the, other people's input. That's a little more direct and a little more complicated. And it should be the second thing that you try, because the best way to do it is to just sort of jump in and ask questions. Now, in all likelihood, if you have to go ahead and use this approach, other delegates in the committee are once again going to support you and be appreciative of the intervention. And especially if it's done diplomatically. If you go ahead and you say to the talkative person, can you just shut up for a second? That's going to make everybody uncomfortable. And if they thought the talkative person was kind of dickish, they're going to just put you in the same group. When you go ahead and you just say to them, hey, I really want to get other people's opinions in here, it just makes you the de facto moderator of your working group. And it automatically puts you in a position. What you'll see happen, and it fluctuates throughout the conference. So you won't be the leader and stay the leader because other people are trying to assert themselves. But it'll make you for at least a while, the de facto moderator of the group. And people will very much appreciate your involvement. Now, if the more subtle approaches don't work, you can politely excuse yourself, just move to another location with other delegates in your working group, right? In other words, you've got a delegate who's talking and talking and talking. You go ahead and you're listening, but then you step over and you say, while they're talking, you kind of quietly lean over to Madagascar and South Africa and you say, hey, can you guys come over here for a sec? And walk over there and start working with them. Physically move your location to other people and keep working on whatever part of the working paper you're working on. Don't lose contact with your group, right? But go ahead and make sure that if the talkative person is preventing you from making progress, preventing you from getting ideas down, don't let them hold you up, right? Don't let them hold you up. You want to keep making progress. And if they continue to pester the group, this is another strategy that you can use. And again, these are all different things that you just have to be prepared to do at any particular point in time. If you've got a really talkative delegate who's stopping things from happening, what you can do is you can turn to one of the more articulate members in your working group and basically ask them to engage the talkative delegate in a discussion so that the group can work on this proposal. In other words, let's say you're working with a group and you know that the delegate from Somalia is really good, very talkative, knows a lot. You just walk up and you say, Somalia, is there any way I can get you? We really need some help so we can make progress on this. Can you go ahead and talk to the delegate from wherever the delegate's from? Can you go ahead and just engage them in a conversation and just keep them busy? We'll keep going ahead and we'll work on the working group. I know that you have these ideas that you thought were really important, so I'll make sure that they get inserted into the working paper, and that at some point when you come back, you can go ahead and check it out and make sure that the wording is exactly what you want. But we really need to get stuff done, and the delegate from whomever is really making it difficult. It's a little somewhat underhanded. It's just an underhanded way to go. But other delegates might actually enjoy being able to take on that role. And, if they go ahead and they're able to do it, they walk over and they turn to the talkative delegate and they go, so delegate, what do you think about this? And they just sort of engage them in conversation and manage to pull them aside and just keep them going and going and going, right? When they finally come back, make sure that you go ahead and you thank the delegate for taking a bullet for the team. Make sure that you go ahead and whatever their proposals were that you knew about, they make sure that you've inserted them into the document and make sure that they're okay with the way that they're phrased. This can be really critical because then again, you're being a leader. And we'll talk about the other delegates in part 2.